Hey guys, Jackdaw here with an incredibly exciting video. Today I am breaking down the entirety of The Dread Wolf Take You, a short story from Tevinter Nights. I'll be plunging into everything spoiler related revolving this tale. So if you haven't already picked up Tevinter Nights and you'd like to experience this story for yourself, go and buy this book and then revisit this video later on. As I said in my review for Tevinter Nights, to any Dragon Age fan remotely interested in the future of Dragon Age's narrative, this book is a necessity and a worthy read, trust me on that. It's all worth it simply for this tale. However, if you would rather pass up this book for whatever reason, you're in luck because I am summarizing everything in this short story. And I say short, but it's really quite long. And if you've already read the story and you'd like to skip straight to the breakdown, go to this following timestamp. But otherwise, we've got a lot to talk about. So let's uncover The Dread Wolf Take You. This tale begins in Hunterfell, just west of Navarra City, where a dimly lit and conspicuously quiet building lay called the Tea House. An old, hornless Qunari was stood outside greeting an elf that would be known as Charter, who entered the establishment. She wore travelling clothes and a simple cloak and a few daggers sheathed by her sides. She made her way to the bar and told the Navarran serving her that she came to meet her friends, a party of 5. The barkeep said that the room upstairs was reserved for her guests and that each of them had already arrived. Charter ordered an Anderfell's mint loose leaf tea, and the barman oddly recalled if she'd like 2 sugars, just like last time, which would have been 10 years ago and many different aliases. She obliged and made her way upstairs as she entered a very large, dim room with a fireplace surrounding 4 figures in very overstuffed chairs. The first figure was an early, middle-aged dwarf with a huge black beard, the Carter assassin. The second figure was a slender man wearing bright silks and a full-faced mask with long blonde locks, the Orlesian Bard. The third figure was a pale woman in dark mage robes with a staff resting by her side, the Mortalitasi, and the final figure was covered head to toe in dark Varantium robes with a thin mesh hood covered with a stench of the ocean, the Executor. Each of the figures turned to Charter as she entered the room. The dwarf assassin noted that she was late. However, the Mortalitasi chimed in and said that actually she's arrived just on time. The Executor, who by the sounds of their voice could be either gender, silenced the room, stating that they are each here because they possess a shared interest in the wolf. The Inquisition's wolf, the dwarf assassin remarked as he looked at Charter. The dwarf continued with his doubts that this wolf is a god, but merely a very old, very powerful elven mage. The bard jumped in, saying that perhaps he's a very young man, while the Mortalitasi said that he is a demon impersonating an elf. Once more, the Executor silenced the room. Whatever he is does not concern them. However, his plan and means of accomplishing it is something that those beyond the ocean do care for. This was to be a meeting of the best spies in Phaedus in one room to share all information on the wolf. However, the Tevinter Sakari and the Qunari Ben Hasrith were missing from this gathering. Charter noted that both groups had declined the invitation. The latter is especially disappointing because they had more knowledge on Solas's movements than anyone else. Charter opened the floor by sharing her knowledge on the wolf. The Inquisition knows very little about what Solas intends. Much of his research involves the veil that separates our world from the world of the spirits. He claimed to have created it, and he asked the Inquisition for help activating artifacts to strengthen the veil. That seemed a possible place to start. The dwarf assassin spoke up, stating that he's only here because Viscount Tefris called in a few favours. He didn't expect to be the best informed person in the room. The assassin begins sharing his tale on what he knows about the wolf. After Meredith went mad with Red Lyrium in her attempts to destroy all of Kirkwall, and Bianca discovered that the thing had the taint, all operations were shut down. After all, blight is bad for business. Viscount Tefris kept the quarantine in Kirkwall, where Meredith caused so much damage with her Red Lyrium sword and turned into a blasted statue. If anyone were to attempt to snag a piece of Red Lyrium from Meredith's corpse, you'd get quite the beating. The same beating would happen when a Dalish elf came around asking if someone can get the Red Lyrium idol out of what's left of the statue. The elf believed an old legend of his people which spoke of the idol being in Meredith's statue, and if he gets it out, he can free his gods or something like that. Before the Carter decided to beat the elf to death, he pulled up a potion and said that it would soften the raw lyrium and weaken its magic for a bit, so they could get the idol inside safely. The Carter tried this technique on regular lyrium and it actually worked. The elf promised to give the Carter the potion as it could become quite prosperous and their own weight in gold if they could recover the idol from Meredith's body, and so the Carter decided to. They sneaked into the quarantine square where Mary the Mad kept watch forever, together. A couple of the Carter fell over, shaking and whispering, but most of them kept their heads on straight as they reached the statue. The song in their heads was getting louder, and one of the Carter brothers ran off screaming. They used the potion on Meredith as she opened up. In the middle of her chest revealed the red lyrium idol. It was not much to look at other than two couples hugging, too thin to be dwarfs. As they escaped the area, they made it back to their safe house where rogue Templar guards waited and asked for the idol. The Dalish elf attacked the guards but was sent to the floor. The leader of the former Templars said that he wanted the potion that changes lyrium. The Carter said that he couldn't give it away because the only man who knew how to make the potion was on the floor, knocked out. The Templar didn't like that, so he tied up the elf, took the chest, and not long after, another man came by. Tevinter buy his clothes and something about House Kintara. He gave the guards a big bag of gold and took the idol. The rest of the Templars waited for the downed elf to wake up so they could learn how to create the potion. They slept for a while, still waiting, until they twitched and mysteriously died. Arrows came through the windows and pinned the remaining guards and Carter. One of the arrows hit the Dalish elf and he died. The dwarf assassin who was telling the story hid behind the dead elf's body as figures walked towards him. Elves he'd never seen before investigated the area. No crap on their faces, fancy armor, with one of them having a Ferelden accent. They walked towards the dead Dalish elf's body as they wished his soul away, guided by the dread wolf. The dwarf assassin ended his story on the note that the dread wolf wants that idol and he's not afraid to get his hands bloody to get it. He pitied House Quintara. If Solas finds them, well, he hoped that none of them are deep sleepers. After the group ordered more hot beverages, the executor spoke up, saying that House Quintara fell with the city of Ventus. The Qunari may possess the wolf's idol. Charter chimed in and said that the Inquisition had agents who were there when Ventus fell. The idol was sold or traded to House Denarius. The Bard spoke up and said that Solas has his own agents, not to mention the power to kill those who oppose him as they sleep. The group argued about the validity of the dwarf's story. However, the Mortalatasi believed the dwarf and had information that supported where the idol went after it left House Quintara. She began her tale on what she knew about the wolf. To her understanding, the Mortalatasi allowed a Tevinter mage to visit and perform a ritual. He came from House Denarius and spoke of his master who had some misfortune. He asked for their help, that he might change this world for the better. The Antam, a splinter faction of the Qunari, had enraged across Tevinter, seizing their land for the Qun. The mage who came had a way to drive back the Antam. He would perform a ritual with the Mortalatasi directing the course of the Fade against the Antam, so that every dream, every demon, every half-interested spirit would urge them back to the north, away from humanity. Their resolve would weaken, their invasion would crumble, and all would go back to the way it should be. They brought the Vint mage to one of the ritual chambers deep in the Grand Necropolis. He had brought slaves with him and an ancient elven artifact taken from House Denarius before it fell. When he opened the thick chest marked with the Carter's protective ruins, he revealed an idol crafted from red lyrium, which seemed to show two lovers or a god mourning her sacrifice, depending on how it caught your fancy. 12 Mortalatasi mages brought forth magic, enhanced it with arcane possessions, and focused it upon the idol the Tevinter mage had placed upon the ground before him. He killed the slaves, withdrawing their blood from the sacrifice. The Tevinter mage raised his idol before him, and a spike of lyrium sprang from the base of the idol. It was not merely an idol, but a ritual blade. He slashed his own hand, and in a flash their minds were pulled into the raw chaos of the Fade by the power of the ritual. The black city shadowed the sky, and all at once a great booming roar was heard. Before the Tevinter mage could complete his ritual, the dread wolf arrived. It was no elf, no mortal mage, it was a beast unlike any had ever seen. Lupin in appearance, but the size of a high dragon, with shaggy spiked hide and 6 burning eyes like a pride demon. And it came on wings of fire that resolved themselves into a horde of lesser demons as the dread wolf landed before them. It spoke, "You meddle past your understanding, foolish mortal mages, and in doing so you threaten all creation." The wolf snapped open its jaws and took the Tevinter mage in an instant as he screamed in terror. It spoke again, "You use my idol carelessly to vandalize the Sea of Dreams. Now feel the pain of what you have created." At once the mages were back in the Grand Necropolis caverns. Its walls shook and cracked, and then a rift of green light rent the ceiling open above. And then the demons that had accompanied the dread wolf burst into the world in righteous fury. Shining warriors with blades forged from the raw Fade itself, and behind them, dimly visible through the cracking light, the shadow of the beast itself, from whose slavering jaws came the final words, roared not in anger but with quiet contempt. "From this moment, should you ever bind a spirit, then your life is mine." The mages fought off the demons with their lives. One of the fellow Mortalatasi, a noble son, sprinted to the body. He seized the idol, its lyrium blade blade was gone, retracted or shattered. He flung it into the thick Carter chest that had bound its power before. He ran with it, leaving the rest of the mages to die. The rift closed and the remaining survivors decided to run too, as they sailed the cavern. They searched for the noble son and the stolen idol, but he had fled to Tevinter. And with so much of the Imperium in chaos from the war, it was not safe to give chase. The Mortalatasi mage ends the story on the note that whether he is truly the Dread Wolf of elven myth, she cannot say. It is not uncommon for powerful spirits to be worshipped as gods, as the Avar do. But whatever fear the name of the Dread Wolf carries, he has earned it. And as clear as the Dread Wolf's anger at what had been done, the Mortalatasi binding spirits he considered his own, and the Tevinter mage using forbidden blood magic, was the feeling that they had disturbed his own work. He intends something for the Fade, and if he wants the idol, then whatever he intends will be terrible. The Orlesian bard continued to stir his tea. The assassin looked over at the executor, saying that he's been very happy to listen, but hasn't offered anything to this meeting. Before the executor could answer, the bard raised his hand and said, "I believe I know where the mage carrying the lyrium idol went next," and the bard began his tale on what he knew about the wolf. During Orlais' civil war, a lot of coin was lost. In the bard's profession, he often spent time searching for Orlesian treasures sold or bartered. He was recently asked to recover such a treasure, a ring that once belonged to Empress Selene herself. He traced this ring across Phaedus to the neutral city of Limerin, where an auction occurred. As he walked through the crowds, plenty of Phaedus' influential were gathered here. An Avar augur laughed loudly at Raveni Parrot Captain's dirty joke. A soberly clad noble from Starkhaven glared at an auburn-haired elf whose dagger not gave her away as an agent of the Qunari spies, the Ben Hasraf. A warding commander spoke of a woman who was robed and masked, but as he passed her, he recognized the voice of divine Victoria herself. The bard learned that the auburn-haired elf was not the only Ben Hasraf agent present. She was giving information to others, and out of curiosity at what the Qunari, so averse to magic, might want at an auction such as this, he listened. The words were in the Qunari language, which the bard knew only triflingly, but he heard her mention the Sakari. Curious, he followed the servant, a forgettable human man, as he left the elf. Finally, he found the other Ben Hasraf deep beneath the castle, its tunnels that the auctioneer himself probably did not know existed. They waited for the musicians upstairs to begin playing, and when they did, the Qunari threw a small blade at the pouch and a great door collapsed as they entered. In the middle of the room, sitting on a satin pillow that rested upon a stone pedestal wrought with protective runework, was the red lyrium idol. Just as the Qunari entered the room, so did another group. Tevinter magisters seized the Qunari. They faced each other. The Qunari shouted that the idol is being searched by a dangerous mage who styles himself the Dread Wolf, who threatens both our people. Leave and we will not have any quarrel with you tonight. One of the magisters replied, saying that he is a mage named Solas, and his ritual has already started to affect the Fade. We cannot risk him acquiring this idol and finishing what he has begun. As they went to attack, the Alluvion sprang to life and both sides turned. A figure stepped out. An elf in golden armor with a wolf pelt across his shoulder. He looked at them and his face was empty of all expression. As one, the Sakari and the Ben Hasraf turned to flee, screaming in panic. The elf's eyes blazed once with glowing light and everyone stopped, petrified by strange and terrible magic. Even the golem was lying stone no more, its crystal dead and grey as it froze where it stood. The elf lifted the red lyrium idol from the pillow where it rested. He whispered something as he picked it up, tracing his gloved fingers gently across the crowned figure. But the bard could not make out the words, for they were elven. Then he turned back to the mirror and stepped through its shimmering border. A moment later, it was dead and dark again. The idol's journey has been complete and it has found its master. He will destroy anyone in his way without regret or hesitation, and whatever he intends. I do not believe we can stop it, the bard muttered. As his story came to an end, the dwarf assassin said that's a good story, but he'd rather hear the truth. The bard shrieked, "I beg your pardon," but the dwarf said that he believed he could knife a spy, but tailing a Ben Hasraf team, no way. The Mortalatasi added that the Tevinter Sakari are anything but cowards. They would not yield nor run from an elf walking through a mirror. They would certainly attack. Charter sighed and said that there are many liars at this table, some more talented than the others. She asked for her life. They began to question each other's stories. How did the Templars get to the safe house if it was supposed to be secret? How did the Mortalatasi not know that a Tevinter mage was going to use blood magic? Charter was quiet. She took a slow sip of her tea and then she quietly repeated that she asked for her life. She looked at the bard, explaining how she regretted not seeing Solas for what he was when he served the Inquisition. It's something that she would regret forever and will never make the same mistake again, she exclaimed. The bard asked, "How can you be so certain?" And Charter said, by observing several small tells and 3 large ones. First, that fewer Orlesian bards would learn to speak the Qunari tongue but not Elven, and fewer of those who do not speak Elven would know the Elven word Alluvion, for the mirrors that the ancient elves travel from place to place. Second, that the executor has not moved since you touched his hand while he and the assassin argued. argued. And third, that you never drank your tea. The assassin and Mortalitassi turned. I know you hate the taste of tea, Charter said softly. It was a joke on Skyhold. Why would you order it? Because it was a joke on Skyhold, the man in the dragon mask said. He sounded tired. I was uncertain this costume would suffice, so I did everything that the Dread Wolf would not, except it seems bring myself to drink tea. His Orlesian accent was gone, replaced by the rolling lilt that was almost Dalish. The man in the mask stood, sighed and took the staff from the Mortalitassi statue's hand. He turned back to Charter and removed the mask. She had seen his face again, just as she had witnessed it all those months ago at Haven and Skyhold, never suspecting a thing. An elf, bald, the golden locks had been part of the mask. An oval face with full lips and a tiny scar on his brow. Pointed ears previously hidden under the mask and wig. Excellent work on the Executor, Charter said. You petrified him, but not his robes. I would caution you in dealing with those across the sea, Solas said. They are dangerous. More dangerous than the elf who threatens the world, Charter asked. Why did you come, you personally? Solas gestured at the table. I wished to know what you all knew. There are many of you and you are not fools. As for me coming in person, the Inquisition was involved. He returned to his seat. Why did you come? She shook her head helplessly. Because you told the Inquisitor that you were going to destroy the world. Did you expect us not to try to stop you? Solas sighed. It was a moment of weakness. I told myself that it was because you all deserved to know. To live a few years in peace before my ritual was complete, before this world ended. Charter said, then perhaps we are not the only ones you lied to. You do not have to do this. Solas's look pinned her. I have no choice. What I am doing will save the world, and those like you, the elves who still remain, may even find it better when it is done. Charter considered lying, but then she thought of Tessa, with her quick smile and strong hands. There are those I care for who would not. Solas smiled sadly. I know not feeling well. I am not a god, Charter. I am prideful, hot-headed and foolish, and I am doing what I must. When you report back to the Inquisitor, Solas's voice faltered. Scylla, I am sorry. He walked away and Charter remained still under the curtain closed behind him. Then she drank the rest of her tea, her fingers shaking a little. She looked at the dragon mask on the table. Prideful, hot-headed, foolish, doing what he must, sympathetic to the elves, said that he was sorry. The red lyrium idol was a crowned figure, comforting another. It was not much, but it was more than she had known before, she thought. Pulling a small notepad from one pocket, she began to write her report. After all, the Dread Wolf wasn't going to stop himself. And oh my goodness, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for writing that story, Patrick Weeks. In an attempt to gather my final thoughts on this breakdown, I've picked out my hot takes and we're going to discuss the dwarf's tale first and going down that way, just so we can somewhat have a structure here. So cherry picking what we learn, Solas has a network of agents working for him. Many Dalish elves believe in his cause and even the ancient elves have been acquired for his scheme. The Dalish elves following Solas believe that he will free the elven gods once he acquires the red lyrium idol. Whether this is true or not, they're adamant on following him, and they've even created a potion that weakens lyrium's effects. Now the ancient elves appear barefaced, having no Valasleen, following Solas's code. They equip themselves with very fine gear, some of the best gear to be seen. Some of them speak like normal Fereldans, like Solas, while others have a hint of a Dalish accent. As a whole, Solas's agents are chasing down every single source until they find the red lyrium idol, and this idol is required for Solas's next phase of action in his attempts to destroy the Veil. Now we discover that Solas can and has the ability to kill his rivals in their sleep. He or his group of agents killed Carter dwarves as they slept. Now this is deemed impossible because, as we know, dwarves have no connection to the Fade, excusing Valter. However, somehow Solas made dwarves dream in order to then kill them. So that's quite mysterious. Now, the red lyrium idol, the big MacGuffin, it's been on such a wild goose chase across Fadis. From each of the stories, we uncover that it was carved out of Meredith's Ford body, it was sold to House Quintara, then resold to House Daenerys, then taken to Navara's Mortalitassi for an ultimate ritual using blood magic, which revealed a blade out of the idol. The blade was taken by the Dread Wolf seemingly, however the idol was taken back to Tevinter. That means that the red lyrium idol's current whereabouts are unknown if we understand that Solas's tale within this novel was a lie, meaning that he is still looking for it, so perhaps the Qunari have indeed acquired the idol. In any regard, I do feel that the idol's whereabouts may be uncovered in an upcoming Dragon Age comic issue. It's somewhere in Tevinter, and we don't think it's in Solas's possession. This red lyrium idol has been enigmatic as heck, but at least now we know where it has came from, and where it could potentially be. Apparently, it originally belongs to Solas, or more aptly the Dread Wolf, which throws us into an entire loophole. The idol means something personal to Solas. It's more than just an object of power. He cares for it. He actually touches it or caresses the idol when he sees it in his made-up story. So Solas understands what it is that we're looking at when we see it. And throughout this novel, we had characters speculating at what it could be. Two couples hugging, a sacrificial encarving, someone mourning their god, a crowned figure comforting another. Whatever it may be, it belongs to Solas, and he wants it back. Now shifting to the Dread Wolf, hence the Dread Wolf Rises teaser title for Dragon Age 4, Solas has already risen in his Dread Wolf form, as malicious and evil as he appears in the Fade. He is truly haunting and is ready to wreak havoc on Thedas, and I am incredibly excited for that future narrative where we get to witness this wolf for ourselves. But that throws me askew as to why they've teased this game as the Dread Wolf Rises when he has indeed already rised and is already preparing his plan without the next game even beginning. We learn that the Dread Wolf has taken full residence and occupation of the Fade, where spirits and demons serve him willingly, unbinded. They believe in his plan, and if anyone dare bind a spirit to their own will, the Dread Wolf will haunt and kill you. This is the new law that he has declared and made himself known, especially to the Mortalitasi. Binding spirits and blood magic is forbidden under the Dread Wolf's watch. This magic disturbs the ritual he has set in motion for the Fade, so Tevinter and the Mortalitasi have to watch out. All in all though, like this Dread Wolf rising and being as scary and crazy as he is, just in this small novel, he is the most antagonistic enemy we've ever had in Dragon Age, and I cannot wait to see that. Now Solas tells in his fake story of how the Bard had witnessed the Dread Wolf acquire the Red Lyrium idol. Though this may not be true, there is aspects of the truth in his story. For instance, Solas does share a very useful insight regarding the Qunari invasion, stating that the Antam will crush and capitalize over everything east of Varantium and northern Antiva as well. Another more haunting truth that Solas as the Bard shared in his story is that he has made himself aware of influential faces throughout all of the Dragon Age games, like Isabella, Amund the Avar, Sebastian, Talis the Divine, and a most intriguing Warden Commander. Solas knows all about our previous characters and he has made himself aware of them as potential threats, which could mean many things for the future of Dragon Age 4. Perhaps we may not have as many returning companions as we'd like to see in this next game, because of course this next narrative is about finding people who Solas does not know. If we brought on Isabella or Sebastian, it wouldn't exactly work in our favour. Now when the Bard is revealed to be Solas in the end, it's made aware that before the Executor could share their knowledge on the wolf, Solas spoke first and then killed the Executor. And later on, he tells Charter that the Executors are dangerous, meaning that they actually pose a threat to Solas. Out of everyone in the room, Solas killed the Executor. Therefore, they must have or know something that can rival Solas. They have got to be a most worthy ally in the future. And speaking of allies, what was mentioned at the start was that the Qunari Ben Hassrath know the most about Solas's movements across Thedas, making them a huge rival against the Dread Wolf because they're following up on everything that he is doing, and potentially a grand ally for anyone who is against Solas. So Ben Hassrath, the Executors, and I would say the Tevinter Sakari are going to be most worthy allies. The questions that remain are, can we ally with all of them at the same time because of their quabbles? And I think that's where the major choices and consequences are going to be in who we ally with in Dragon Age 4. And hitting on the final notion here, Solas tells Charter to let the Inquisitor know that he is sorry once more, explaining that he is not a god. He's simply a prideful, hot-headed fool who is doing what he must. And that just really breaks apart the fact that, of course, unlike Corypheus, Solas is a truly three-dimensional character. He's aware of what he's doing. He cares about people in this world. But ultimately, he has a choice and a promise to make, and he's going to do it. And that's what's going to break our hearts when we see that happening in the next game. But that'll do it for my breakdown on the Dread Wolf Take You. I apologise, it's just so long, but we had so much to delve into. I really wanted to summarise large aspects of this novel, so I really appreciate all of you who have gone through this. There's been so much to uncover, and this was just one story in Tevinter Nights. I am working on a separate, much smaller video that will look at everything Tevinter Nights tells us about Solas going forward. So don't worry, the Solas speculation has just begun. I've merely just given you all the facts for now that I could muster throughout the Dreadwolf Take You, but there is plenty more tinfoil ahead throughout the entirety of Tevinter Nights. So stay tuned for that content. Let me know what your thoughts are on this story down below. How exciting, how crazy, how heartbroken are you? I am so excited to see the Dreadwolf in future titles. I am fully peaked for that. But for all your things Dragon Age going forward, you're already in the right place. Check out my blog, my Patreon, but until the next one, I have been Jackdaw, and I should go.